Hello, dear ones. Father Peter John coming to you from All Saints Orthodox Church, South Fairfax Road in Bloomington, Indiana. Christ is in our midst. A blessed feast of St. John of Shanghai and San Francisco, the wonder worker, to all of you. St. John is, as you may know if you know me, one of my favorite saints. He has an amazing spirit, an incredible prayerfulness about him. And he brought this wonderful spirit of prayerfulness, of desert-style monastic asceticism to our shores in our modern day. St. John of Shanghai and San Francisco, he was born in what is present-day Ukraine. Grew up as a sickly child. He just didn't have much of an appetite and he wasn't very well, but he was always said to be very prayerful, to have a very prayerful and gentle spirit. His uncle actually is also St. John Maximovich, St. John of Tobolsk. So don't be confused if you see there's a couple of different St. Johns out there. But this St. John became a monk and then a deacon and a priest monk, and ultimately because of the people's love for his caring heart and his caring and gentle prayerful spirit, he was made bishop. He was sent to Shanghai to care for the flock there. And when he arrived there, he found that there was a lot of division among the people, the Orthodox people. And so he fought and he strove to bring people together, which he did. Ultimately, he was able to build a cathedral there and then encouraged the building of many other churches and facilities that the Orthodox Church could use to minister to those who needed help and care. St. John then, at the end of World War II, when communism began to take over in China, St. John brought his flock, his Orthodox flock, to the Philippines. And then, as they were there in an encampment, he flew to Washington, D.C. and lobbied to have the laws changed to allow his flock to come from Shanghai through the Philippines into the United States. St. John then brought his flock in, and for a time he was assigned to serve in Paris, which he did, until he ultimately came to serve in San Francisco. St. John brought, as I said, this prayerful and ascetical and wonder-working spirit to our very shores, to the city of San Francisco. He was able there to complete the building of the cathedral and to serve people in a way that they were not used to being served. One of the things that he liked to do was go in the middle of the night and visit the hospitals, and people would wake up and he would be praying there at the foot of their bed. And in some cases, we receive these stories handed down that these people would sometimes wake up in the morning cured of terminal cancer or something like this. These are the kind of stories contained and the testimonies contained in the books written about him. He had some interesting nicknames. One of his nicknames was St. John the Barefoot, because he would go out walking at night, and when he'd go out, if he found somebody, a poor person who did not have shoes, he would give them his shoes, and he was often seen coming back barefoot. And so for that reason, some people called him a fool. I think he very willingly and joyfully embraced that title of fool for Christ's sake. It's the kind of man he was, such a humble man. St. John also, as I mentioned, is called the Wonder Worker because, again, through his fervent prayers, many were healed and many seemingly hopeless situations were healed. And the other thing I wanted to say was this. St. John was a big fan of St. John of Kronstadt. He loved St. John of Kronstadt. And he sought to emulate St. John's example in many ways. One of those was that he served liturgy as often as possible, every day if possible, and received communion every day. And St. John of Shanghai and San Francisco was also greatly involved in the work that brought about the official canonization and glorification of St. John of Kronstadt, another saint that we hold dear to our hearts. There are many, many other things that could be said about St. John that there is no time in a 5-minute video to say them. But I encourage you to read about his life, to look to his example as an encouragement in your own life and in the life of our Orthodox Church in America, and to ask his prayers that he watch over this American flock by his prayers to bring the peace of Christ to his people. Christ is in our midst. He is and ever shall be.